Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this is exciting because we have got another justified double upload day, because right after we got the news about some of the craziness going on with the Guaranteed Krisk Champion Training event, just a couple hours after Plarium let us know about that, we are getting some balance changes, which is always exciting because we can take a look at maybe some of these champions that are underperforming or under-desired by the community when it comes to summoning, and see if we are going to be getting some buffs that will bring them into light. Yakarl is most notably going to be one of the Void Legendaries balanced with these changes that I'm going to react to live. I have seen them be posted, but I have not read them yet, so we're going to read them together, and then I'll talk about if I agree with them, disagree with them, and to do my best to give you some context into if it will change the landscape around these champions or not. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's start off with right at the top here, Yakarl the Scourge. Now, he's an important one to get right. He's got some cool things going on. He's a Void Legendary with his own backdrop. He's got the Blizzard backdrop that matches his frozen cold aesthetic, so very cool. Let's hope they buff him and get him in line, because I know he's been one of the least desirable Void Legendaries in the raid community. So let's start with the A1 here, and it looks like they're going to be changing this to make it a lot less wordy. So we're just going to have attack one enemy 2 times, each hit with a 40% chance of placing a freeze debuff, and it used to be a 20%. Now, I'm assuming they'll leave the books the same, where you have the 2, 5, and 5, so you'll be able to bump that up from a 40 to a 50 on a multi-hitter, which means you're going to be very likely to place some consistent freeze debuffs with the A1 there. And then we're also going to be getting a built-in Savage set as long as they are under a freeze, which is going to be very consistent if you're using Yakarl. So we're going to be getting a free Savage on the A1, keeping it a multi-hitter and buffing its freeze potential. But we're going to get rid of this more wordy part of ignoring shield buffs if there are 1 or more enemies under freeze. We'll ignore block damage. So that was very convoluted and inconsistent to get it working with consistent value. So we're just going to take that wordy part and remove it and replace it with something much more consistent of just ignoring defense if they're under a freeze. Love the changes on the A1, and this A1 is going to be much better than the previous version, so that's a good start. Then we've got the A2, and it looks like the only thing that's going to be changing is we'll ignore 50% of the target's defense if under a freeze debuff. So okay, it looks like it's staying the same. We get that first part of it, attack one enemy, chance to decrease speed. Okay, and then the second part stays the same of stealing turn meter and increase speed in this champion, but we're just adding more ignore defense. So not only do we get the free Savage set on the A1, we're getting a free ridiculous Savage set and a 50% on the A2 here. So definitely a very good change there. Then we've got the A3 here, and it looks like we are just going to be changing this to a straight up AoE attack, which is an amazing change. That's going to make it way better. We do not have buff chance on our books here, at least under the current version, but we've got a 75% chance to place a freeze for 1 turn. Oh, and then we get the chance increases to 100% if the target has 75% or more turn meter, and the debuff cannot be resisted if they hit that qualifier either. So kind of a wonky qualifier to have any sort of control over from your end, but the fact that he is going to have an AoE freeze, and a pretty consistent one that even possibly can't be resisted, is definitely an amazing change. Makes that A3 way better. Then we've got the passive here, and it looks like we're going to be getting a complete rework on that. So we've got the passive effect that is going to increase the damage this champion inflicts by 10% for each enemy under a freeze, and it looks like that is what used to be there already. Damage, or that used to decrease the damage. Okay, so we're now, instead of decreasing the damage he receives based on freeze, we're going to increase the damage he outputs. So I like that as a damage dealer. That's pretty cool. We're going to help him hit things even harder, and we're also going to still decrease the damage this champion receives by 10% for each enemy under a freeze. I like this. It's less wordy. It's less stuff going on. It's simple. He's going to be working well with freeze and synergizing to both do more damage and take less damage, so I like that as well. We're also going to place an unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever he gets a kill if they are under a freeze, instead of the place unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns whenever there are 3 or more enemies under a freeze debuff. But it is worth noting that there is a cooldown on that passive up in the top right of 5 turns. So yeah, it's hard to say here. I don't have Yakarl. I haven't been able to play around with him a lot, but all in all, I like the changes. I would give this like an A- in terms of the changes. Pretty solid. There might be a couple random things I would have done differently, but I like it. Definitely, he's gonna be way better now, and we'll have to redo our Void Legendary desirability rankings after we hopefully maybe we'll get a test server or something to try out some of these balance changes. I don't know. Obviously, Plarium's workflow is a little bit crazy right now, but yeah, it'd be fun to get a test server to be able to jump in and test this guy, because he's definitely gonna be a lot better. So I'll give these changes an A- on Yakarl. And really quick, worth noting, when I went to switch to the next champion, I did notice that I missed in the text that there is also going to be a change to his aura, so I'm going to make sure to mention that. We're going to be getting ally attack in all battles by 33% instead of just Doom Tower by 43. So again, he's going to be a little bit more consistent, and the attack aura is not super amazing or super sought after, but at least when you do use him, it's going to be all battles instead of just the Doom Tower. So I would say all in all, even though it's a lower percentage, it is definitely a buff to his aura. Then it looks like we're getting a few changes to Cleopterix, which is definitely important. She definitely needed some love, so hopefully they get this right. So we're going to start with Feather Barrage, which is the A2. And from what I can tell, it looks like the only change is going to be we're adding increased crit damage on top of increased crit rate in terms of buffs that she will place on herself. So now it will replace 30% increased crit rate and a 30% increased crit damage on this champion for 2 turns, and everything else remains the same, but we're going to be getting a damage increase on the multiplier for the attack that she is going to do on the AoE for the A2, and then on the A3 we are also going to get a damage multiplier increase here for Sky Punishment. So I'd probably give this like a B-. I mean, it's cool to get more crit damage, but it's only for her, and we don't know how good the multiplier is going to be or not. It could be an awesome change. It could be a really minute change that you barely notice. So all in all, definitely not as impactful as the Yakarl ones, but that's understandable. He's a Void Legendary. They really need to make him worth being a Void Legendary. Cleo was kind of a reward for playing the game, so definitely not going to be in the same tier as like a Void Legendary that you have to summon out of shards. But all in all, I'd give this like a B- for her changes. We were probably hoping for just a little bit more on Cleo. And then Samar Gemcursed also getting a little bit of love, and we're just going to be getting a bunch of damage increases. The A1 here, Crystal Flesh, is going to be getting damage, and then Emerald Curse, and then Boon Subversion. All of his abilities here that deal damage are going to be getting a little bit of an increase. It's unfortunate, like I said, that we don't get to see it. We don't know if this is 5%, 10%, 20%, so we don't know how big this is. So all in all, I would have to give this like another B-. It's not helping anything in terms of how the kit functions. We're just getting raw damage, and I don't know what that is. So it could be good, it could be bad. We'll have to wait until we kind of know those numbers, or we can get in game and test this on a test server or something. And then we are getting some pretty significant changes to Skartorsis. Now, it's only going to be the rebirth ability, which is going to be the A3 here. Now, let's go ahead and look at the Ascended version. They've got the Unascended and the Ascended, but odds are if you're going to be using this guy a lot, you're going to be using the Ascended version of the ability. So let's focus on that. So first of all, cooldown reduced from 7 to 6 and 5 to 4 when booked. That's important. Raid has kind of evolved and power creeped a little bit, where you can't have abilities that are 7-turn cooldowns and stuff. We've got to get that lowered by 1. So I love that change. It's going to make him function a lot better within the current meta of Raid. And then also change the order of the action of the skill. So up top, you can see it heals all allies and then removes all debuffs from them. But this new version is going to remove all debuffs from allies and then heal them. So obviously you can see a lot of scenarios where that's going to make the skill function a lot better by first cleansing them and then doing the heal that he drops on them. And then the amount that he heals and the amount that he fills the turn meter is going to be changing as well. Instead of being based on how many debuffs are on them, obviously that isn't going to be no good now that he is a cleanser. So what it's going to be doing is changing the amount of heal and the amount of turn meter fill based on how many debuffs he cleanses. So in a scenario where your team has a lot of debuffs on them, Skartorsis is going to go ahead and wipe the slate clean and then do a big heal and a big turn meter fill if he cleansed a lot of debuffs. So he'll be really good against like situations like the Void boss where you got lots of poisons coming down. He's going to cleanse and do a bunch of healing and a bunch of turn meter fill. Or in the arena, you're facing big debuffers or something. He could be used as an amazing cleanser in that scenario and bring a lot of utility besides that. But it is still going to have a 4-turn cooldown. But for an ability with that kind of impact, with a big heal, an AoE cleanse, turn meter fill, a 4-turn cooldown really isn't that bad. So I would say for this one, I would also go A-. I would have maybe liked to see a little bit of adjustment on the A2. I love the A1. It fills a super cool niche in terms of being AoE buff steal on an A1. Love that. I would have maybe given the A2 just a little bit of love. Not a huge buff or anything, but if they gave the A2 just a little bit something, then I would give this like an A or an A+. But I do like the changes to Rebirth. So all in all, I'll go A- on this one as well. And then last up for this iteration of balance changes that we have gotten announced to us today, we have got Nobel. Now, Nobel is probably one of the least desired Shadowkin legendaries out there. So definitely, if they were going to adjust one legendary for the Shadowkin, I'm glad they started with Nobel. So first up, we're getting a base speed increase from 92 to 98. Definitely good. 92 is super low for a legendary, so bumping that up by 6 is going to be a great change. And then we've also got Dismay being changed, which is going to be the A3 right here. And what they're going to be doing is, so it used to be 75% that you can book up to 100% of decreasing each enemy's turn meter by 20%, but that's going to change to 50%. So more than doubling the turn meter decrease effect. And then also on the Desolation passive, instead of just being a 50% chance of placing that True Fear when that qualifier procs, now it's going to be a 75% chance to place that True Fear whenever an enemy's turn meter is fully depleted. So, I'll give this like a B. I do think it helps Nobel. I think it helps him be a little bit more consistent, gives him a little bit more value. He got 6 more speed, and then his kit is a lot more consistent in terms of bringing some impact to the battlefield. So I'll give it a B. It's not amazing. It doesn't make Nobel crazy, but it's also pretty decent changes. So I'll go with B on Nobel. So alrighty, that's going to do it for the balance changes that have come through behind the scenes on some of these champions. It's exciting to start getting some news around Raid and really rejuvenate the community and rejuvenate us content creators and make us excited about doing content on Raid again. It's fun to see new things coming down the road and changes to champions and all of that. So I do think Yakarl is going to be the most impactful one. He got like a full rework. It wasn't just like a balance change. I mean, he's completely changed as a champion. So I do hope, like I said, I get a chance to test him out a little bit. And if you have Yakarl, definitely let us know down in the comment section what you think about this. Do you like these changes? Is he going to be one of your favorite legendaries now? I always enjoy reading through for future content in terms of what you guys are saying as well. And we might have to host a poll on the channel or something to see how people are feeling about some of these changes and these different champions. So yeah, that's going to do it for me on this one. And as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.